Imagine waking up one morning and every major city in America is gone. New York? Empty. Los Angeles? Abandoned. Washington, D.C.? Silent. The internet doesn't work. Your phone is dead. The government has vanished. And this isn't just happening here. It's happening everywhere. London, Tokyo, Paris, Sydney, all at once. Within 50 years, nearly every advanced civilization on Earth has crumbled into dust. Sound impossible? It already happened once, and we still don't know exactly why. Around 3,200 years ago, the most advanced civilizations humanity had ever created collapsed almost simultaneously in one of the most catastrophic events in human history. Empires that had stood for centuries vanished. Cities that housed tens of thousands were abandoned and burned. Trading networks that spanned continents went dark. Writing itself nearly disappeared in some regions. Historians call it the Bronze Age collapse, and it remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in archaeology. Today, we're diving deep into this ancient apocalypse. What really happened? Who or what destroyed the ancient world? And could it ever happen again? Let's go back in time. The year is 1250 BCE. You're standing at the crossroads of the ancient world, and let me tell you, things are pretty incredible. This is the Bronze Age, at its absolute peak. We're talking about a level of civilization that won't be matched again for almost 1,000 years. The Mediterranean and Near East are buzzing with activity. The Egyptian Empire controls vast territories along the Nile and into the Levant. The Hittite Empire dominates modern-day Turkey and Syria. The Mycenaean Greeks have built magnificent palaces on the mainland and are trading across the sea. The Assyrians are rising in Mesopotamia. The Kassite kingdom rules Babylon. These aren't primitive societies. Far from it. They've got organized governments, professional armies, complex bureaucracies, and international diplomacy. Kings write letters to each other in Akkadian, the diplomatic language of the age. They arrange marriages between royal families. They negotiate trade deals and peace treaties. They send gifts of gold, ivory, and precious stones. The Uluburun shipwreck, discovered off the coast of Turkey, shows us just how connected this world was. This single merchant ship was carrying copper from Cyprus, tin from Afghanistan, ivory from Egypt or Africa, amber from the Baltic, ceramics from Canaan, and luxury goods from a dozen different cultures. It's like finding a crashed Amazon delivery truck filled with products from every country on Earth. Writing is everywhere. The Egyptians use hieroglyphics. The Hittites use cuneiform. The Mycenaeans have developed Linear B, an early form of Greek. Scribes keep detailed records of everything from tax collections to military campaigns to diplomatic correspondence. Cities are massive and fortified. Mycenae has walls so huge that later Greeks thought they must have been built by the Cyclops. Hattusa, the Hittite capital, covers 400 acres with temples, palaces, and fortifications. Egyptian Thebes is arguably the greatest city in the world. Technology is advancing. Bronze working has reached new heights. Architecture is becoming more sophisticated. Agriculture is productive enough to support large urban populations. Medicine, mathematics, and astronomy are developing. International trade routes connect everyone. Tin from Afghanistan meets copper from Cyprus to make bronze in workshops across the Mediterranean. Egyptian grain feeds foreign populations. Luxury goods flow between royal courts. This is a globalized world, an interconnected system, a thriving civilization that has taken centuries to build. And then, in the span of just a few decades, it all comes crashing down. Let's jump forward to around 1200 BCE. Something is terribly wrong. The Hittite Empire, one of the great superpowers of the age, suddenly goes silent. Their capital, Hattusa, is burned and abandoned. The empire that rivaled Egypt simply ceases to exist. Gone, almost overnight. Mycenaean Greece collapses. The great palaces at Mycenae, Pylos, and Tiryns are destroyed. Some are burned. Others are abandoned. The writing system, Linear B, disappears completely. It won't be rediscovered until the 1950s. Greece enters a dark age that will last for centuries. Cyprus sees massive destruction. Cities are burned. New settlers arrive and completely change the culture. The Levantine coast is devastated. Major cities like Ugarit are destroyed so completely that they're never rebuilt. The city of Ugarit sends a desperate final letter before its destruction, basically saying, "The enemy ships are already here. All our troops are gone. We're doomed." It reads like a final distress signal from the Titanic. Egypt survives, but barely. Pharaoh Ramesses III fights off massive invasions. Temple walls show chaotic battle scenes. Egyptian records speak of foreign lands being destroyed, of refugees flooding the region, of mysterious invaders coming by land and sea. The Kassite dynasty in Babylon falls. The Assyrian Empire contracts dramatically. Trade routes collapse. Cities across the eastern Mediterranean and Near East are abandoned or destroyed. Archaeological evidence shows layer after layer of destruction. Ash, burned buildings, hastily buried treasures, mass graves, evidence of desperate last stands. And here's the really eerie part. In many places, advanced civilization just stops. Writing disappears in Greece for 400 years. Population levels plummet. People abandon cities and return to simple farming villages. International trade nearly vanishes. Technology actually regresses in some areas. It's like someone hit a reset button on human civilization. But who or what? That's the mystery that has haunted archaeologists for over a century. Let's talk about the prime suspects. Theory number 1, the Sea Peoples. Egyptian records mention them repeatedly. Ramesses III describes them as invaders coming from the islands and foreign lands, traveling by ship and land, destroying everything in their path. Egyptian reliefs show naval battles and desperate fighting. The Egyptians list their names: the Peliset, the Cheker, the Shekelesh, the Denayan, the Weshesh. Strange names, unknown origins. For a long time, historians thought these sea peoples were the answer. A massive migration or invasion of foreign warriors who swept through the Mediterranean like Vikings or Mongols, burning and conquering everything before them. It's a compelling theory. It's dramatic. It has clear bad guys. It fits with Egyptian sources. But there are problems. First, who were they? We don't really know. The names don't clearly match any known civilization. Some scholars think the Peliset became the Philistines. Maybe the Cheker were from Sicily or Troy, but it's mostly guesswork. Second, where did they come from? The islands, sure, but which islands? What would cause such a massive movement of peoples? Third, and this is the big one, could raiders alone really destroy multiple advanced empires simultaneously? These weren't primitive societies. They had professional armies, fortified cities, and organized defenses. Raiders might sack a city or two, but topple entire civilizations across thousands of miles? Many modern historians think the Sea Peoples might be a symptom, not the cause. Maybe they were refugees themselves, fleeing from some other disaster, becoming raiders and invaders out of desperation. So if it wasn't just the Sea Peoples, what else? Theory number 2, climate change. Recent archaeological evidence has revealed something fascinating. Around 1200 BCE, the climate in the eastern Mediterranean changed dramatically. There's evidence of a severe drought lasting decades. Scientists have analyzed pollen samples from ancient lakebeds. They've studied tree rings. They've examined crop records and archaeological remains. The data shows a significant decrease in rainfall across the region right around the time of the collapse. Think about what a multi-decade drought would do to Bronze Age civilizations. These societies depended on agriculture. Most people were farmers. Cities relied on grain from the countryside. No rain means no crops. No crops means famine. Famine means social unrest, economic collapse, and mass migration. The Hittite records actually support this. In their final years, we have letters about grain shortages. The Hittite king is desperately requesting emergency grain shipments from Egypt and elsewhere. They're clearly experiencing food crisis. A drought would also explain the sea peoples. If farming became impossible in certain regions, people would have to move or die. They'd become refugees, raiders, migrants looking for new lands. The Egyptian descriptions of massive movements of peoples make more sense in this context. But again, is drought alone enough to explain such complete collapse? Civilizations had dealt with droughts before. They had storage systems, trade networks to bring grain from elsewhere, and social mechanisms to handle food shortages. Something else must be going on. Theory number 3. Earthquakes. The Eastern Mediterranean sits on major fault lines. Earthquakes have always been a danger, and there's archaeological evidence of a major earthquake storm around 1200 BCE. An earthquake storm is when a region experiences multiple severe earthquakes over a relatively short period. One quake triggers others along connected fault lines. It's like a domino effect underground. Many of the destroyed cities show evidence consistent with earthquake damage. Walls collapsed outward, buildings pancaked, destruction patterns that look different from typical military conquest. At Mycenae, Troy, and other sites, archaeologists have found evidence suggesting seismic activity. Some defensive walls have the kind of damage you'd expect from ground movement rather than battering rams. Here's where it gets interesting. Earthquakes could trigger a cascade of disasters. They destroy cities directly. They damage infrastructure like grain storage and water systems. They kill people and livestock. They disrupt agriculture. They create panic and social instability. And in the chaos, invasions and raids become more likely. Combine earthquakes with drought and you've got a real crisis. But even this doesn't feel complete. Theory 4. Systems collapse. This is where modern thinking is heading, and it's probably the scariest theory because it's the most realistic. The Bronze Age civilizations were interconnected. They depended on each other. Cyprus needed food imports. Bronze production required tin from Afghanistan and copper from Cyprus. Palaces needed luxury goods to maintain their authority. Kings needed international trade to fund their armies and bureaucracies. This interconnection created efficiency and wealth, but it also created vulnerability. Imagine dominoes arranged in a complex pattern. Each domino supports others. The structure is impressive, but it's fragile. Knock down a few key pieces, and the whole thing collapses. Maybe that's what happened. A drought hits, reducing agricultural output. Food shortages weaken governments and cause unrest. Some regions collapse, cutting off trade routes. Other regions lose access to essential resources like tin or copper. Bronze production falls, meaning fewer weapons and tools. Military capacity decreases. Raiders and invaders have more success. More cities fall. Trade networks break down further. Writing becomes less useful without bureaucracy, so literacy declines. Skilled craftsmen lose their markets and royal patronage. Technology is lost. People abandon complex urban life and return to subsistence farming. It's a death spiral, a cascading failure. Like a modern economy crashing when too many interconnected systems fail at once. Scholar Eric Klein compares it to pulling threads from a tapestry. Remove one thread, and the tapestry looks fine. But keep pulling threads, and eventually the whole thing unravels. The Bronze Age might have been a victim of its own complexity. The very things that made it advanced made it fragile. So what really happened? The honest answer is probably all of the above. The latest archaeological thinking suggests the Bronze Age collapse wasn't caused by one thing. It was a perfect storm of disasters hitting at the same time. Climate change causes drought. Drought causes food shortages and migration. Migration creates the sea peoples and puts pressure on borders. Earthquakes destroy key cities and infrastructure. The interconnected economic system can't handle multiple shocks at once. Trade networks fail. Governments lose legitimacy. Raiders exploit the chaos. Cities are abandoned. Civilization collapses. Each factor made the others worse. It was a cascading, interconnected disaster that fed on itself until the entire system came apart. The Mediterranean world entered a dark age. Writing largely disappeared in some areas. Population plummeted. International trade nearly vanished. Major cities were abandoned. Technology was lost. It would take centuries for civilization to recover. When it did, it looked completely different. The Iron Age began. New peoples like the Phoenicians, Greeks, and later Romans would eventually build new civilizations. But the Bronze Age world was gone forever. Now here's the uncomfortable question. Could it happen again? Look at our modern world. We're far more interconnected than the Bronze Age ever was. Your smartphone contains materials from dozens of countries. Your food comes from around the world. Your electricity depends on fuel from distant places. International trade, global supply chains, and complex systems keep everything running. We're seeing climate change, we're seeing migrations, we're seeing political instability, we're seeing how quickly supply chains can break down, like we saw during the pandemic. We're seeing how interconnected our vulnerabilities are. The Bronze Age collapse teaches us something important. Complexity creates fragility. The more interconnected and specialized a civilization becomes, the more vulnerable it is to cascading failures. Remove enough key pieces and the whole thing can unravel faster than anyone expects. We like to think we're different. We've got better technology, better communication, better understanding. But the people of the Bronze Age thought they were pretty advanced too. They'd built civilizations that lasted centuries. They probably thought their world was permanent, and then it all came down in a single lifetime. The mystery of the Bronze Age collapse isn't just about what happened 3,000 years ago. It's a warning from history. It's a reminder that civilization is more fragile than we like to believe, that progress isn't inevitable, that collapse is always possible. The empires of bronze thought they would last forever. They were wrong. If this deep dive into one of history's greatest mysteries fascinated you, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We explore the unexplained, the mysterious, and the forgotten stories that changed our world. New videos every week that challenge what you think you know about history, and drop a comment below. Do you think modern civilization could experience its own Bronze Age collapse? What do you think would cause it? I read every comment and I'm genuinely curious what you think. The past has secrets. Let's uncover them together.